Welcome everyone to the July 20th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. All that are able, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Doreen, would you call the roll, please?
McMine King,
Here?
Marvin Gates,
Here.
Roger Beely,
Here.
and Jennifer Ladd. Here.
All right, folks, we do have a quorum. Marvin, you're a voting member tonight because of the absence of James Hebert. And at this point, I do want to just mention that we had 3 items for consideration. The first one, the Beaver Brook Preserve, has been tabled, so we will not hear any of that project. So we're down to 2 items for discussion. However, we do have minutes from the June 15th, 2026 we'd like to enter into the record, and I would entertain a motion to put those into the record.
So moved.
Thank you, Roger. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jen. Any discussion? As usual, Doreen, you always do a very great job with the minutes. I'm being nitpicky here. Under 2.03, under roll call, you did the roll call and said that all members were present at this meeting. And then in italics, it says due to the absence of somebody. So just strike that sentence, and I don't have any other input other than the fact that another well-done job. Any other discussions? Seeing none, Doreen, would you take the roll?
McMine King,
Yes.
Marvin Gates,
Yes.
Roger Beely,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd. Yes.
All right, the first order of business is 4.01. The proposed amendments to Chapter 405 Scarborough zoning ordinance, including the creation of a new use, mobile saunas, adding to the use to the Section 6 definitions, adding the use to allow districts in Section 13.a zoning district use tables, and adding Section 9.gg performance standards, mobile saunas. Erin, I think you're going to give us a rundown on this one.
Yes, thank you. So this is a use that has been brought up in recent, I think, some council meetings and some side conversations that councilors have had with residents and area business owners, and looking for the availability to allow for a mobile sauna, which is essentially a steam or heat sauna on wheels. So staff has created a new definition that we're proposing to add to the ordinance, as well as some requirements. So I'm happy to read through those. Essentially, we're considering this type of use in much the same way that we've treated the mobile food vendors, which have recently been before you and before council. And this is our proposed definition for a mobile sauna: is a portable, towable trailer or other mobile platform designed and constructed to provide the same heat and steam experience as a traditional sauna. Mobile saunas are designed to be temporarily placed on sites and not permanently installed. For the purpose of this definition, the mobile sauna use shall be an accessory use to the primary use of the site. Mobile saunas are subject to Chapter 405 zoning ordinance use standards and applicable performance standards. So we are here today at July 20th, having already been before the ordinance committee on June 10th and the first reading with town council on June 17th. Following this review and discussion, it will go back to town council for a public hearing and a second reading proposed in August. I've made some highlights of what the ordinance is proposing as requirements, but we can read through them in your packet. You have the full readout list. But essentially, a mobile sauna, the permits are available through the town clerk. All applications will be reviewed by all the planning and codes departments, police, fire, and assessing departments. No more than one mobile sauna will be allowed per lot, and they are only permitted as an accessory use to a permitted non-residential use. Just as an aside, if someone would like to put a mobile sauna on their own residential use, like in their backyard, that is not something that needs to be a permit. That's like a personal decision that you can put within your own property. But this is as a business to be run on only a non-residential use lot. The minimum setbacks for the lot for whichever zone the use is located in will still apply. There are a minimum of 3 parking spaces that must be designated for the mobile sauna specifically with a written agreement. It may come to pass that through the review with the planning, police, fire, and assessing departments, that more than those 3 minimum spaces will be required, but they can be accomplished through other means such as a shared parking agreement. So for instance, if the mobile sauna is located on a use that is not open, or is only open during limited hours, and the mobile sauna would like to be operating during the off hours, there may be more parking available during when the normal business is closed. Go back, sorry, that's okay. The mobile sauna must be parked on existing asphalt or concrete. No new material will be allowed to be installed for the mobile sauna without a site plan approval. And they're not allowed to be located in an ADA accessible parking space, in a fire lane, within the public right of way, any area where they might block ingress or egress to the site, or within vision triangles, which essentially means not too close to the corner so that people that are navigating the roadways can still see around the mobile sauna. Any questions on the ordinance requirements?
Can you give us an example of how this is gonna work? I mean, this must have come from somebody. Some business, some mobile sauna must have wanted.
Yeah, there are a number, I think, in the region, especially with our proximity to the ocean and the beach. I've seen them pop up at places that are close to the beach where people like to do a cold plunge in the ocean and then go sit in the sauna afterwards. They fit somewhere between 4 and 8 people, maybe 4 and 12 people generally. And have you seen the structure that we're talking about? Can you picture it?
Like a tiny,
Kind of like a tiny home. Yeah, like a trailer, a horse trailer, or sometimes they're round like a barrel. It has to be on wheels. It has to be road ready in order to be allowable to be moved on public roads. So there are some state requirements that come along with mobile businesses, but these are just like the local requirements that we're adding.
so if, say at Pine Points,
Mhm.
some business down there wanted to just offer it,
Yes.
For anybody who's down there using the beach,
Mhm.
that would be an example.
That'd be an example. So it'd have to be in an area that's already parking, essentially pavement or concrete. It would need to have the appropriate 3 parking spaces available during the time that it's operating and potentially more if required. Can't block sight from other passing vehicles. It has to be on the business's actual property, not in the public right of way. It's very similar to the ordinance that is written for the mobile food, for the food trucks. So in a similar instance where some businesses are happy to host a smaller startup business on site, we're just allowing that as a potential use.
Let's hold off on any other thoughts from us. I do need to open this up for public comment. Anyone wishing to make a public comment on this ordinance, please step up to the podium. Anybody online?
I don't see any hands online.
All right, now I'll close the public comment and now I'll open up to questions and comments from my colleagues. And I won't pick on anybody. Go ahead, Jen.
I'm curious if we specify, I know you mentioned sort of 4 to 8 people, and I think there's probably some sort of capacity limit by way of what would be able to be mobile. But I'm wondering if we have any issue or need to state the capacity of that. And I'm thinking in particularly about the park. So we're very clear on the number of parking spaces that would be needed to support something like this, but not necessarily the size of the sauna itself. And so I just wonder, like, if someone came in with one that was much bigger and we're saying you only need 3 spaces, or maybe it's only for 4 people and they really wouldn't need even the 3 spaces. So we're specific on the parking spaces, but not necessarily the capacity, or not even capacity, but like square footage or just size in general of the mobile unit. Just a thought.
I think we're not limiting it on the size capacity of the actual sauna, but we are reviewing it with those
For
internal
equal.
staff, right? And so, you know, potentially it could be in an area that's in very close proximity to a public parking lot or a paid parking lot.
Sure.
And that might be used as an offset in similar ways that it is used for businesses in our site plan ordinance. So just allowing planning, police, fire to evaluate those different situations, I
Okay.
think will allow for the right amount of flexibility there.
Okay, I
We-
think.
Jen,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but we also have a sister ordinance with this that goes just to council. You all don't see it. It's chapter 1015. So it's the regulatory ordinance about the actual licensing.
Mm,
And that does have a limit for the size.
Gotcha.
And so the limit is 30 feet long, 13 feet tall, and 9 feet wide.
Okay,
So there is
probably
some.
like roadworthy,
it's-
you can't,
Right.
can't put 50 people in that. Not that you would want to. Okay, and the other question I had was around the term temporary. And I'm not necessarily thinking that we should define what that is, but I'm curious and hopeful that a business owner like this or someone else in the future might like, how can they understand how long they can, is there a limit on how long they could operate in one place, and or are we going to make them move, or you know, disband or shut down or something during a period of time, because in order to meet that that term temporary. And I'm thinking that because, like, when I think about mobile food trucks, for example, that becomes a lot more difficult in the winter just for various reasons. But this is a use that I think is actually great, and we definitely wouldn't want to not have this available in the winter. So just curious about that term temporary.
There's no definition. It's probably a good idea to include it. The chapter 1015, there is an annual registration. So there is an opportunity if something has gone on too long that council does
Could
have
we
the ability
revisit it?
to not license it. But if you were thinking more on, there is no, you have to leave in 90 days
Okay,
sort of situation.
Like, do they like roll it forward? and
Right,
then
I would
roll it back?
suspect,
They would,
I would
like, that's kind
suspect
of
in the
annoying
summer months right now, it'd be pretty limited, and then it would
in
be,
the winter.
so 7 to 8 months of the year. So I think there'd be some bit of temporary nature too.
Sure. Okay. And then just lastly, this, we've looked at mobile or mobile food vendors, I guess I should say, maybe it's not always a truck. And that kind of makes sense, but this one being a sauna sort of seems like a little bit specific use. And so I'm just wondering, is there, I'm supportive of what's been proposed here, but I'm wondering, like, more broadly, is there a language or ordinance piece that just covers mobile business? And an example of that I'm kind of thinking of is like the on Washington Ave in Portland, they have these like boxes, these like cargo boxes that are sort of incubator spaces for up and coming businesses, and they're really small. So a lot of times it's like a business is there for a short amount of time and then they sort of go on to do something else. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to address these mobile businesses in a way that's a little less specific, but still covering the ordinance needs.
They actually discussed that at the ordinance committee meeting, and at the time they decided, okay, we'll look at them until we get
Each.
maybe another one, because they
Okay.
were trying to think of what the next
Yeah,
one
I
might
can't
be. Is it
think of
a,
another.
is it a mobile pet grooming or
Right.
something like that? So,
That's a good one.
I think if we see another one,
Okay,
we're all kind of prepared to go in that route, and they're written really similar.
Sure.
So it would be fairly simple to do.
okay, great. I think it's a really neat use for this area. Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Roger? All set? Marvin?
I don't have anything.
I've got a couple of questions slash comments, trying to understand this idea of a tiny thing being transported and located. I'm assuming there's a need for a light inside the sauna. How is that provided? A portable generator mounted onto the side? Is there, a need for outside lighting if it's in the middle of the night and they're using this and they need to get to their cars? Or is there an outside light that would shine to cover those spaces? And then I guess my second comment that I kind of need a little clarity on is, given, I'm assuming these can be both a steam or, as they often say, an Arizona room where it's just heat. And there's got to be some sort of heat source. And now, as I look at these, are these enclosed rooms with a heater inside? And what is the fuel for that heat? Maybe it's wood, and that means there's a fire. And are those sprinkled, or what's the situation if a fire gets out of control? So I have some questions about this, and need a little clarity on that.
So again, in the 1015 language, that actually has to do with the licensing of the mobile saunas that you all don't see. We have an equipment standards about the size and upkeep, and then inspections are required. So all heating and electrical equipment must comply with applicable safety regulations, including but not limited to applicable fire and electrical codes. Mobile saunas shall obtain an annual fire inspection from the fire department prior to opening. There's also an inspection, an initial inspection and a re-inspection. There's a clause about refuse and waste and where you're going to handle that. And then there's something about signage and noise, lighting, and odors. So mobile saunas shall not emit sounds or speakers or anything like that. And then there's hours of operation from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So those are, and then there's insurance required. So those are things.
So is there a way we could footnote those into this performance, into the performance standards that they have to comply with that particular section that we didn't see?
So actual ordinance.
Looking at this, I don't see where it references anything in terms of the
So-
permitting process or anything like that.
So the mobile sauna standards in GG, it's, the first one is the town clerk shall have the authority to issue a permit for them. They should review the applications in order, and then we have, in the event, how they're not, and then we have upon submission to the town clerk an application, so they have to follow those rules.
Okay, so
So we
this,
could reference that under number 3, we could reference the chapter 1015. And meet those standards. So just so it's cross-referenced. So this is just a use,
yep,
in our zoning purview, and then there's the whole licensing part that's separate. So that's sometimes what's confusing about these dual type of situations. Like short-term rentals is the same thing. We defined a use, but then we have this whole other process that you have to follow. But I think that's probably a good idea.
yeah,
the
because
rest-
your section GG is germane to mobile saunas only. And I'm not sure it, you know, I think it should be, personally, I think there should be some reference into the requirements to get a permit for these. Should be in part of the performance standards.
I don't disagree, but I would caution, everything in our zoning ordinance requires some level of permitting, so I don't want us to get in the habit of saying. "You must get a
Okay, I
building
follow you
permit."
there, yeah,
So that's why, but
okay.
I think in this instance, it's unique enough that it would be totally appropriate. I just don't.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I certainly don't want to cloud all the
Yes.
language in all of these,
And
but
really, so we don't have to keep going back, and if you change one, you have to change the other. That's the.
yeah,
the real
right,
hiccup.
right. Well, I'll leave that up to your discretion
That's a good idea.
on your side. But I just wanted to call that these things are unique. Apparently there's a market demand for these. And I certainly think it's a viable use. I just want to make sure it doesn't put the public in any harm's way. That safety and fire protection, lighting, and human occupancy in these things, are important.
Would you all recommend that we place an occupancy maximum on this use? Because you discussed it in the beginning.
Well, it's going to be hard how's that going to be enforced? I mean, you could have one there and then, the number of people, say it's 10, but you could have a line waiting to go in there being formed, but you only need 3 parking spots. So that's 12 people. Let's say you put 4 people in a car.
I was just wondering if we wanted to limit the occupancy of the actual saunas themselves, so at least we knew that they wouldn't be 10 every.
I don't know enough about these things to see if there's a need to limit it. I mean, I imagine the size
I
and,
think they're wonderful, I will say. If you haven't done this.
oh, I think going
should.
outside for a sauna, I mean, a hot tub to me
You
is.
should try it, Rick.
I think we're probably just gonna have a few, and so it'll.
My guess is that your answer to my question about size and capacity, I didn't realize there were size limitations. So like, I don't know, you could get real cozy in there if you wanted, but like literally you just physically couldn't fit more than a certain number of people. And so I think with that sort of size limitation, at some point, I don't necessarily think we would need to apply occupancy maximum. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have enough experience I'll leave that up to
And
plan.
I'll add that we included the loose language about parking because we had this occupancy conversation at ordinance committee. It was like 3 seemed reasonable, but we might, if this is a really large one and they can seat 12, then we might say, you have
Yeah.
a really tight spot and there's not enough parking, so.
I would-
need more.
I would maybe again refer back to how we treat food trucks. Like we wouldn't give, obviously it's not enclosed, but like we wouldn't put a maximum on, like if you were great, you
Right.
could have a big old long line of people waiting for your food truck. And,
Exactly.
and I think the making sure that we're including and supporting any sort of shared parking agreements is great. My guess is that it's going to be some sort of like-minded business that's going to attract this anyway. And I think as was mentioned before, it's a great opportunity for someone who like has a parking lot and is not being used at another time, weekends or weeknights or whatever. A great dual use.
Got what you need? All right. We'll put that one to rest. The next item is a consent item that we moved to this meeting from our last meeting. It's Goro Palmer on behalf of Magenta LLC is requesting site plan review for a 5-building mixed-use commercial and light industrial development at 40 Haggis Parkway, Assessors Map R50, Lot 35. Helen, you're gonna give us the rundown. I think what we were waiting on is the DEP permit.
That's correct. Yes. The last time that the board saw this particular project, we were just waiting on their amended DEP permit, and that has since been submitted. So from our end, they're good to go. This is a phase 2 site plan. Phase 1 is at 70 Higas, right next door. That's a one building development. And there are 5 remaining buildings at 40 Higas. This phase involves 2 of those 5 buildings that are remaining. So we'll likely see future site plan development. But for now, it's just the 2 buildings on about a 4.3 acre parcel. We mentioned the background a little bit, and this site has gone through a few iterations, but the master plan was initially approved in 2019. Since then, they've come forward for a sketch plan and then amended their master plan. The site plan was reviewed in February along with the preliminary subdivision, which was approved in March, or the final subdivision, excuse me, was approved in April. And then the site plan was submitted in April to be reviewed concurrently with the subdivision. But as I mentioned, we were waiting on the DEP permitting, and that's been resolved, and the applicant is available for discussion.
Thank you, Helen. And for the applicant.
Evening to the board, Steve Bushy with LJB, formerly Grohl Palmer, here on behalf of the applicant. We've had multiple meetings on the project, and we were fortunately enough able to get our DEP and Army Corps permits. They do take a long time nowadays. So we apologize for some of that delay, but hopefully you folks can take an action tonight on the final site plan.
Thank you. And this item is available for public comment. Anyone wishing, please step up to the podium. Anyone online?
I don't see any hands online.
All right, well, I will close public comment and turn this over to my colleagues. I don't think there's much more to chat about this. I did read the DEP permit, and it looks like your ducks are in a row. And at this point, any comments? No? All right. Seeing no comments, I have a motion. I move to approve the project titled Phase 2 Site Plan proposed by Magenta LLC. The project is depicted in plan sets prepared by Grohl Palmer dated 3/16/26. The application is approved with the following findings and conditions. Findings. The project will include the second phase of a 6-building mixed office and light industrial development on a 4.38 acre parcel at 40 Haggis Parkway. The first building has already been constructed in phase 1, now 70 Haggis Parkway. The proposed site plan includes 2 of the remaining 5 buildings, as well as associated parking, utilities, landscaping, stormwater management, and a relocated driveway. The property is located in the Haggis Parkway zoning district. The planning board finds the project meets the requirements of the site plan review and ordinance in zoning ordinances with the following conditions. Condition 1, prior to the submittal of a building permit, the applicant shall A, address staff comments in memo dated 7/20/26. B, address traffic comments in memo dated 5/22/26. C, address engineering comments in memo dated 3/30/26. D, provide a performance guarantee for the cost of construction for the proposed sidewalk. This shall be 150% of the estimated value of construction. E, provide a final full plan set to the planning department. This shall include all site and civil plans, landscape plans, lighting plans, and architectural renderings and elevations. F, provide formal approvals from the Scarborough Sanitary District and Portland Water District. G, execute a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town. The form of the stormwater maintenance agreement is located in Appendix 1 of the Town of Scarborough's Chapter 419 Post-Construction Stormwater Infrastructure Management Ordinance. H, pay the Chapter 419 Stormwater Maintenance Agreement and reporting fee, a total of $750. I, submit payment for all review fees and invoices. J, pay the roadway impact fees, total $54,701. That's from Oak Hill, $6,200, Dunstan Corner, $4,206, Haggis Parkway, $10,890, and the Payne Road, Ginn Road, at 33,405. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall reach out to the planning department at planningscarboroughmaine.org to schedule a pre-construction meeting for 3 weeks from the submittal date. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor. 3, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall, A, submit evidence in the form of a letter or plan prepared and stamped by a professional engineer who either prepared the post-construction stormwater management plan and its associated facilities, or supervised the plan and facility construction and implementation. The letter or plan shall certify that the stormwater management facilities have been installed in accordance with the approved post-construction stormwater management plan, and they will function as intended by said plan. And B, reach out to the planning department 2 weeks prior to CO inspection at planning@scarboroughmaine.org to schedule the final site inspection and establish a performance guarantee for any missing items. And 4, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan. This shall be reviewed by the planning department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dorian, you want to take the roll?
Rick Monking,
Yes.
Marvin Gates,
Yes.
Roger Bailey,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Take care, good luck. And as I said, the Beaver Brook has been tabled, so we're gonna move right into,
We need to do an action to table that item.
oh, I'm not used to doing that. What do I just say? Anyone in favor of not hearing something, say aye?
We just, since we advertised for it and we put it on the agenda, it was after the fact, so we need you all just to say, someone make a motion to table it to your August meeting and someone second. And
All right, do
Thank
I
you.
have a motion to table?
So moved.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just up a little bit, up, yeah, there you go.
Second.
All right, Marvin, thank you. All right, all in favor? Do we need a roll call vote? Okay. All right, that's the first time we've done that on a tabled item. Thank you. So now we'll move on to item 6.2, M&R Holding LLC and LJB Engineering on behalf of 10 Market Street LLC are requesting a site plan amendment review for a proposed 4,028 square foot, single-story commercial building bank with a drive-through facilities, associated parking, landscaping, pedestrian connection, and shared access drives at 14 Market Street, number 205, Assessors Map, Lot U56, A1B 205. Wow. All right. With that said, Helen, do you want to give us a quick rundown on this one?
Yes, I'm not gonna say the lot number again because you did such a good job and I don't want to. So the only thing I'll add, you covered the highlights. This is a pad site within the 10 Market Street site plan, which was originally approved in June of 2023. So it's an existing sort of impervious site ready, anticipating this amended site plan that's being reviewed now. As you mentioned, it's just over 4,000 square feet, single-story commercial. This building also has a drive-through. It's proposed as a financial office, and the applicant is available for questions.
Thank you. And for the applicant.
Good evening, and thank you very much. I'm Dan Bacon with M&R Development in the Downs. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to have Steve introduce Maine Community Bank, and then I'll carry on with the presentation. Supposed to do anything for... Awesome. Thank you. Okay, here you go, Steve.
Thank you, Dan. I'm Steve DeCastro, the CEO at Maine Community Bank. If you're not familiar with the bank, we are what's called a mutual savings bank. So we're owned essentially by our depositors. We have 21 branch locations all in southern Maine. We, over the past year, have been looking at different opportunities for expansion and have just been really excited about the opportunity in the Downs with the business activity and the residential activity going on in that location and really feel it's an important opportunity given our footprint as it exists today to add to our franchise. And thank you for considering our proposal.
Thanks, Steve. And we're excited to be working with Steve and Maine Community Bank. I also, before I continue with the presentation, I did want to thank board and staff for attending the Rising last week. For those that were able to attend, it was super exciting for us to have you all there and all the activity that's happening in Town Center. There's about 220,000 square feet of commercial development kind of under construction in various forms right now. So it's an exciting time for us, and this site is just on the edge of all that activity. So thanks for those that could attend and for staff for attending. Back to the matter at hand, as Helen introduced, this site is on the 10 Market, well, it's 4, 10, and 14 Market site plan in site. This is just to the right of the 10 Market building that's been complete for some time now, where Allagash Bungalow is, offices upstairs, and other commercial uses on the ground floor. And we've been considering different uses for this adjacent pad site for quite some time. And after a lot of conversations, we think this is the perfect fit for that site and the most viable use for that site. So I'm going to flip to site plan. So this shows the 4,000 square foot building just to the right. So the 10 Market building's the larger building in the center of the image. And the bank, which also will have wealth management services. So it's a bank as well as some additional financial services. That's why it's the 4,000 square feet, a bit larger than a typical branch bank. The building has been located to really nest with the 10 Market building in the green space that's between both buildings. If you've been to Allagash Bungalow, you understand kind of that outdoor space with outdoor dining and drinking. And then there's a sidewalk that delineates the edge of that part of the site. And then there will be green space that will be executed by this project just to the right of that sidewalk before you get to the bank building. And then we've intentionally focused the drive-through component of the bank, which is an important component of their program, off to the far right, so that it's away from really the kind of the people side of the project and not particularly viewable as you go down Market Street or looking head on at the site. In terms of specifics around the site layout, we're taking a few parking spaces out to accommodate this program, but given the nature of the use, there'll be excess parking actually for the overall site by performing a bank and financial services use in this location. We've also studied queuing for the drive-through and actually did counts at a very comparable bank in West Falmouth and have designed for more than adequate queuing. So at any one time, based on our counts that were recorded, there were a maximum of 3 cars queued in the drive-through, and this provides for 2 drive-through lanes with room for 4 cars per lane. So more than enough queuing based on the bank's experience as well as on the ground counts that were taken on 2 different days at a different branch bank. Other than that, As Helen indicated, this is a pad site, meaning that all the utilities are in the ground, the parking is in. So this is really kind of vertical construction project with some modest site improvements. So there's stormwater's in, utilities are in, and will be just modified to connect to the utility room within the building and to accommodate the use. We're gonna rework the sidewalks. Right now, we did bituminous pavement for the sidewalks on a temporary basis. So, but if you're out there going to Allagash Bungalow or the other uses, there's actually concrete sidewalks along the entire frontage of 10 Market. So that'll be extended to tie the bank in so that it's seamless and has the same level of finishes for the pedestrians. This is an image of the building if you're viewing it just off kind of to the right corner of the building. And we've worked with Steve and his team, as well as our team, on architecture that's a little bit different, but very complementary to the 10 Market building. So there's similar siding material, black windows, black trim, and similar kind of glazing in terms of the window pattern, so that it'll look very complementary to the 10 Market building, but have some distinct elements. It's more of a white color versus the gray of the adjacent building, and we've added a brick trim around the base of the building to anchor the building and distinguish it from the 10 Market building. This is a zoom in, our landscape plan, which is on the right side of the screen, and also a view of the additional green area that's going to be executed with the project. So the plan is to have turf just like Allagash. So it's an easily maintained open area that is softer than doing all pavers. And we've been working on sort of a seating plan where there's like Adirondack chairs, more of informal seating towards the street, where folks might be visiting the bank, visiting Allagash or other businesses. So places to stop, meet friends, wait for an appointment. So that's the intention of the seating area closer to the parking. And then the rear area is more tables and chairs, thinking that some employees might be having lunch outside on a day like today, whether they work for the bank or the offices or a lunch break for Allagash. So those are really kind of to have seating, different types of seating and different uses within this space that's usable by the bank, but also the entire project and visitors to it. And the landscaping plan kind of outlines the details. And this is a view if you're just off to the left of the building, so that you see the building as it relates to that open area. And then again, Allagash is just off the screen to the left. So those were our kind of high points that we want to cover with the board, and happy to answer any questions that you have. They're excited to join the project and get started on the site. So we're hoping for approval, and have worked closely with staff, and any final comments that staff had, we're working on already, and can certainly handle as conditions of approval. So thanks for the opportunity for the presentation, and here to answer questions.
Thanks, Dan. This item is available for public comment. Anyone wishing, please step up to the podium. Seeing none here.
No one online.
All right, we'll close public comment and turn this over to my colleagues. I'll first start saying this, we knew something was going to come here way back when we approved the first building. And it seems like a really good use of the space with the access coming right from Haggis through Market Street. And then coming down from, that busy downtown district that is currently underway. I really don't see any concerns here from my point of view. And I think this is an attractive looking addition to that lot area. But that being said, open to any dialogue with my colleagues. Go ahead, Roger.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, it looks pretty cut and dry to me. I mean, it was.
We knew something was coming.
Yeah, and, so, I don't see any issues here at all. I'm looking forward to seeing it. We need a third main community bank in town. So I'm all set with this.
Well, it'll reduce some traffic because I know I do my banking there, so I won't have to go all the way to Oak Hill anymore. So that'll be nice. Jen?
Yeah, actually, that is one of my questions. Forgive me for not knowing, but are there other locations? Does this bank have other existing locations in Scarborough? It sounds like yes. At least at Oak Hill.
With and
Okay.
Steve can get into details, but with the creation of Maine Community Bank, so it's Gorham and Biddeford Savings. They have two sites in Scarborough currently. One is across from Hannaford on Hannaford Drive. The other is next to Starbucks on Route 1.
Okay. And will this be in addition to that, or are either of those locations relocating here?
I think for the time being, it's an addition, and
Okay.
they're assessing the future of the other two.
Sure.
It's
Okay,
the best way to put it.
thanks. Understood. Let's see. Did you look at putting the drive-through on the back of the building?
We did look at putting the drive-through on the back of the building. It really was, from a circulation standpoint, pretty challenging to accommodate it on the back and not really interfere with how all the other customers and users of the site kind of circulate. So it became a pretty big design challenge to put it there.
The
That's
site-
why
You're talking about like site, like parking lot circulation?
parking lot circulation, access to the parking that's in the rear, which is actually heavily used for the upper stories of the office building.
Okay.
So it didn't really, there wasn't the space to accommodate it without it really impacting the other building that was on site.
I was thinking of it from a queue length perspective, understanding there's obviously other implications. Did you look at additional stories on top of this? Presenting a similar mixed use case to the building adjacent to it?
We looked at it actually to potentially accommodate needs of Maine Community Bank. So this is actually an acquisition. So unlike some of the other buildings we're doing, Maine Community Bank will own the building as a condominium. So this is very much a building for them and for their use versus a building retained by, say, the developer who might add additional tenants or uses. And so they thought about, would they ever need, additional office space? And given their other assets, they don't need that much square footage. So it didn't make sense to go vertical. It doesn't mean they couldn't maybe way down the road, but at this point, ground floor, 4,000 feet is what they need for their use.
Okay. The other question I have, another question that I have is about some comments and information shared, I think, between the package and our traffic peer reviewer, and this has to do with basically the assignment of trips to and from this facility. And so there was a comment made about thinking that the trip generation assigned through exit 42 was pretty high. And actually the traffic peer reviewer used the following quote, citing that this land use is to provide convenient vehicular access for surrounding neighborhoods, residents, employees, and businesses. But then also question, maybe this is a question for staff, I don't know. But then also question the routing of some trips like basically through the Downs. So coming through the Downs and Payne Road intersection and through the Downs at Route 1 intersection. And I think that as I was thinking about this, and then when I looked at a map, obviously this location is much more proximate to Higas Parkway. So if someone, like if this was someone's end destination, that using that route would make much more sense. But based on some of this information, it wasn't necessarily clear to me about, is that how this was looked at? We're looking at this as an end destination versus, the the reference to surrounding neighborhoods, residents, employees, and businesses really kind of makes one think about this as, and as you have presented it as part of the overall Downs development, whereby, and you even said, being excited to be co-located here with this other sort of growing development. So are we, is the focus to either have people come in off of Higas Parkway, in which case we wouldn't want to account for maybe as many trips going through the secondary intersections, or should we plan for those? And I think my question around this is coming from making sure that we're not planning for those. Like those are going to be, we've talked a lot about through the development of this project, like being mindful of, I don't like using the term cut through, but like cut through traffic or people navigating through the downs, speeding, volume, things like that. And so just wanting to make sure I understand kind of what the thinking is here, and maybe what the draw,
Yeah,
what the draw audience is.
I can speak at a high level on that. I can't get into the
Or,
details of distribution. The traffic engineers had a pretty good conversation about it at the staff level, and I think are kind of finalizing any tweaks that need to be made. That could be like a condition on what, to make sure the impact fee is totally right. Because that's really what the root of their comment was, is
yeah,
are the right impact fees being paid at the various intersections
Right.
that, but I think from a business standpoint, there is a percentage of like primary trips that are going to go to this, for our banking needs, but also the wealth management service, which is sort of above and beyond service that, so there will be some primary trips. I don't know the percentage. But, and then of course, there's going to be sort of the pass by, or because I went to Market Basket, or because I lived at the Downs, or I went to Allagash. So I think from a business perspective, they see both of those as the reason to locate here. I don't have the percentages the traffic engineers do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I can't speak to whether that's 60-40 or
Sure. And
the reverse.
I know it's a couple, relatively speaking, it's a few trips associated with this business coming, through an intersection, and we're seeing all of the things individually, but I'm just always, and the scorecard is so helpful, I feel like, in keeping track of these things overall. But just being really thoughtful about each of those little contributions to kind of the greater impact and distribution.
Yeah, and I think they can come to agreement on that kind of at the consultant staff level for sure.
Okay. I also have questions about the drive-through use in this zone.
So the drive-through use is only prohibited with restaurants?
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Noted. I don't see a difference. I think the impact to the zone from a drive-through is kind of the same. I don't know. I have a lot of issues. Maybe I'll save some of this for the next one, because I think it's a little more relevant here. It's a little more, this is still within these zones, but the crossroad zone just really, I found it very conflicting to have a drive-through use here within that zone. It feels very misaligned, but I understand that it is allowed. So maybe we could take that up at another time.
I think from a traffic generation standpoint, there's a very big difference to a drive-through restaurant and a drive-through bank.
Sure, sure. I guess I'm not even thinking of a trip generation as much as just kind of a land, like a usage perspective, and what that's like, how it creates and defines a character of place. That's kind of how I interpreted it. And I interpret the Crossroads District to be, I actually think it's incredibly clear about the intent of that, you know, referring to things like wanting to support village character over suburban commercial areas. And that just immediately reminded me of other pad banks that we have approved with drive-throughs. On elsewhere on Payne Road, Gallery Boulevard, Route 1, places like that, and those do not conjure up village center type images to me. And so anyway, but I don't want to take, if that's, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. So
Your concern is not lost on staff.
I could go on more, but I will not. Yeah, so that's all that I have.
Okay, Jen, good points. Marvin?
Hit the button. Hi. Okay, I'm new. I don't mean to bore everybody by telling you my life story here, but I'm new to the board. I'm attempting to figure out how all of this works and where I fit in. I don't have any problem at all with this proposal. I completely understand the attractiveness of this location to the business owner and property owner. I am thoroughly impressed by what goes into all the decisions made to build something like this and something bigger and much bigger, as I would define it as those things that you don't really see. And my focus, meaning everything that happens underground or on the ground, but above ground, the architecture is sort of my focus to what I think I can contribute here, if I can contribute anything. So, and obviously the Downs is well down the road, and congratulations and all of that. But when that's the background, and when I open the packet and read it, I ran into, for example, if I can find it here, the architectural and signage aspect of the 14 Market site plan. And I ran in, this is, I think on page 5 of it, I ran into the design of the building intends to comply with the character-based design guidelines. This is really a question probably for staff, but I don't have any other better time to do it than now. And character-based design guidelines, that's all capitalized. I went through the entire zoning ordinance. I spoke to staff today trying to find where that might exist. And I went through chapter 405B, the site plan review ordinance, and I could find character mentioned in both of those a fair number of times, but still nothing character-based design guidelines in capitals. Is that something that exists that I couldn't find?
Not to my knowledge. We have the commercial design standards. The master plan itself for the Downs might reference that. Dan, you'd know that more than me. Is that what you all call it in the master plan? Is that what it's referring to?
Yeah, it is, and sometimes districts get blended together in narratives because the Innovation District also has language like that. So when we go through master plan, we have, and I understand, Marvin, that you haven't been through master plan phase of the various districts because there's a number of them in the project. There are kind of design standards and design guidelines that are passed at that master plan stage. So that's what that was referring to. And that's likely why you couldn't find it in ordinance, because it's not in a town ordinance. But it's intended to provide guidelines around like the look and feel of different parts of the Downs. For example, the Haggis district, it's small. There's not a lot of area. It's just essentially what you see out there with 10 Market, and this future building has a different look and feel than, say, the residential area, right? That's closer to Route 1, and it has a different look and feel than the Innovation District. So I apologize on
Yes,
our
no.
behalf for you chasing something you couldn't find in
No,
terms
it's,
of,
and mine's the last from a trick question.
yeah.
I did find this is sort of my comment, my
Mhm.
constructive, critical comment,
Mhm.
if I have one, in chapter 405B for the site plan review ordinance on page 48. And I'm just going to read it. It's as far as the materials that you're using. Traditional, high-quality building materials common to northern New England, e.g. brick, clapboard, shingles, or other similar products, shall be used as the primary siding material. Contemporary materials that have the same visual characteristics, e.g. cement, plank, clapboards, or vinyl siding, which sort of is more of the latter, the contemporary materials, is basically what I understand that you're using. And I think your
Yes.
buildings look very nice. Still, the contemporary materials are acceptable if attention is paid to detailing, etc. And when I look at it critically, I read acceptable, and that is not equivalent to preferable. And preferable is what they were speaking to, or what this speaks to in the brick, clapboard, shingles, and other similar products. So that's really the sum total of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. I think this is well cooked. Just a couple of questions from my point of view in terms of the aesthetics, going back to Marvin's comments. I do notice that you do have a gas service connection. I'm just wondering what the vision is. Are there going to be rooftop units? Is there a central boiler and compressor outside? What exactly is the HVAC system for this? And, are they going to be adequately screened if they're, for example, if you put a VRF system in there with the outdoor condenser, will that be adequately screened with your landscape plan? Can you expand on exactly, what services are going into this?
Rick, we're still working on the specifics of the HVAC system, but they will be rooftop, either in the utility room for like hot water, et cetera, or rooftop, and/or rooftop for at least cooling. And there's a parapet design. So
Mhm.
I believe it's at least 4 feet, from the roof to what you're seeing for a parapet. So they won't be visible from the sidewalk or parking area given, and there won't be kind of ground mounted units. They'll be interior or on the roof, and screened.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, second floor of that adjacent building will have a view of the services you put on top of that roof, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think adequate screening, you can put VRF systems, if that's what you're gonna go with for both heating and cooling, you can put those on the roof. But maybe a screening around those may be, nice, so that it kind of obstructs the view from the second floor of that building.
Yeah, at least the third floor. Yeah, it's probably borderline on the second floor.
Yeah,
but-
second, third, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add. Are we all set with the I do have a motion for tonight's review. Okay. I move to approve the project Title 14 Market Street Development proposed by 10 Market Street LLC. The project is depicted in plan set prepared by LJB dated 6/22/26. The application is approved with the following findings and conditions. Findings, the project will include construction of a 4,028 square foot, single-story commercial building with drive-through facilities, associated parking, landscaping, pedestrian connections, and shared access drives. The planning board finds the project meets the requirements of the site plan review and zoning ordinances with the following conditions. Condition 1, prior to the submittal of a building permit, the applicant shall A, address staff comments in memo dated 7/20/26, B, address traffic comments in memo dated 7/6/26, C, address engineering comments in memo dated 7/6/26. D, address planning comments discussed at the 7/20/26 meeting. This includes 1, work with staff and peer review to calculate and allocate traffic impact fees. 2, utilize high-quality building materials. And 3, screen all rooftop utilities from adjacent businesses. E, provide a final full plan set to the planning department. This shall include the site and civil plans, landscape plans, lighting plans, and architectural renderings and elevations. F, provide formal approvals from the Scarborough Sanitary District and the Portland Water District. G, submit payment of all review fees and invoices. And H, confirm roadway impact methodology with staff and pay roadway impact fees. The final amount will be determined through those conversations. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall reach out to the planning department at planning@scarboroughmaine.org to schedule a pre-construction meeting 3 weeks from the submittal date. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall A, submit evidence in the form of a letter or plan prepared and stamped by the professional engineer who either prepared the post-construction stormwater management plan and its associated facilities or supervised the plan and facility construction and implementation. The letter or plan shall certify that the stormwater management facilities have been installed in accordance with the approved post-construction stormwater management plan, and they will function as intended by said plan. B, reach out to the planning department 2 weeks prior to the CO inspection at planning@scarboroughmaine.org to schedule a final site inspection and establish a performance guarantee for any missing items. And 4, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan. This shall be reviewed by the planning department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roger. Doreen, would you take the roll?
Rick Manking,
Yes.
Marvin Gates,
Yes.
Roger Bailey,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
All right. Welcome
Thank you very
again
much.
to the town of Scarborough with your 3rd branch. All right, moving to our final action item. This one is M&R Holdings LLC and LJB Engineering on behalf of MRW Town Center Development LLC is requesting site plan review for 2 single-story commercial buildings with associated parking, landscaping, pedestrian connection, and shared access drives. The first building will contain 4,000 square feet of commercial spaces, including a 2,000 square foot bank branch with drive-through facilities and a separate 2,000 square foot retail tenant space. The second building is proposed to be approximately 2,500 to 3,000 square foot. The project is located at 72 Market Street, Lot 2, Assessor's Map U56, Lot B2. Helen, ready to dive into this one?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you covered a lot of the highlights. This is in lot 2 of the Downtown Center. As you mentioned, there are 2 buildings being proposed. I'll flag the second building, that 2,500 to 3,000 square foot building will need to come back to the board for amended site plan review when the end user is determined, and that's TBD now. But the building being proposed for construction is that commercial space that's being shared between the bank with a drive-through and that retail space. The applicant is once again available for questions.
Thank you, Helen. And for the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Michael O'Reilly. I am the New England Regional President for NBT Bank, who is the bank that is going into this part of the town center. Who is NBT Bank, you may ask? NBT Bank is a $16 billion bank headquartered in Norwich, New York, near Cooperstown, if anyone's been there. We have roots going back to 1856. This bank came to Portland, Maine in 2014 with a commercial office, recently opened a branch in the Bayside neighborhood of Portland, and the Downs, if approved, will be our second branch. I am also a 30-year resident of the town of Scarborough, and have worked with this development team almost that long. NBT Bank also supports M&R development by financing residential and commercial properties on site, as well as providing some infrastructure financing. As soon as we saw the town center phase being developed, we immediately reached out to the developers. We feel that this part of the Downs is in need of a banking facility, as well as this part of Scarborough. Obviously, our friends at Maine Community Bank agree. So we're very excited to be part of this and very supportive of this project. Thank you.
And this was very coincidental. There's 2 bank items on your agenda tonight. We haven't had any in the last 7 years, so just so happened.
Well, we have.
And again, thanks, Mike. And as noted, NBT has been a partner on this project actually since from the beginning. And a major contributor in terms of infrastructure, in particular infrastructure funding for this project, among other individual sites. So a key partner for us in the town. So this site, I'll share again. This site we reviewed with the board at sketch plan, I think 2 meetings ago with you. So just a reminder about where we are. So this site is located at the corner of Market Street and Avenue West. Avenue West is the road that provides access to Market Basket and is essentially the bypass, or kind of the loop road that provides a way around town center if you're not intending to travel through it and go to kind of the heartbeat of the town center, where we have the mixed use buildings and the retail and restaurant and ultimately the green. So it's at that corner on the edge of town center. It's in a location that is intended to be not have a lot of vertical construction, to be smaller buildings before you get to town center. Again, on the edge and in front of Market Basket, and as a use that you'd expect in front of the grocery store. It's planned to be, the bank is only one component of the site plan, but is the first entity that we have through a lease agreement to kind of proceed with the site plan process. So as Helen indicated, there's 2 buildings planned on this site. The one that NBT will be located in is planned to be 4,000 square feet. They would take half of that space. And then we're anticipating a building just to the right of that would be 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. Just because it's a smaller site that's bounded by the 4 roads or driveways that you see up there. And it's across from the single-story kind of financial services building that was approved a couple meetings ago by the board. So kind of zooming in on the site plan, and we talked about this at sketch plan and have made some updates since sketch plan on some details that staff and peer reviewers pointed out. But the building that we're seeking kind of full approval for this evening is on the left. And we're seeking approval for the entire site. And much like the 10 Market site that you reviewed this evening earlier, as well as in the past, we plan to execute the site work for the entire site and then come back to the board with specific architecture, for that second building that we don't have a defined program for yet. In terms of adjustments that we made since your sketch plan review, there were some comments around good pedestrian connections to Market Street, making sure the sidewalk system is safe, that there isn't kind of cars backing into to that space. So we made some adjustments there. We've also made some other adjustments, especially around kind of screening of the drive-through. So the layout is intentional in terms of having the drive-through face through the auto side of Town Center, kind of towards the Avenue West, which is going to be that bypass road where the trucks are going to go, where all the grocery traffic comes in and out, and to have the building pulled to the street and have a strong connection architecturally as well as sidewalk connection to Market Street, and then have sort of a courtyard area of parking that serves both buildings. And along those lines, the right side of the building will really be kind of the front and the right side of the building will really be the kind of the retail face where there's glazing, there's windows, doorways, close to the parking and close to Market Street. And we've intentionally screened the drive-through and made it as small as possible so that it's subtle. It's not overbearing and doesn't erode the overall layout. So this is a view as you're driving into Town Center, and this is really kind of right at the edge of entering Town Center. This is where I think 2 meetings ago, you approved Market Basket signage, which indicates where Market Basket is located. Also on that same sign is sort of the gateway sign for Town Center. That's the threshold. It's guiding you to the left to go to Market Basket. The sign is guiding you to the right if you're driving, to continue on to the right to get into the heart of Town Center where retail and restaurant and the mixed-use buildings are. So that sign is intended to be prominent and will be. And then the landscaping that follows the site will screen any cars using the drive-through and emphasize the sign and landscaping, and as well as the signage on the building and the architecture of the building. This is a view that we provided in your package that shows the context of Town Center and the heart of Town Center with the mixed-use buildings. Like we talked about, celebrated the breakaway being underway. So that's the building that's in the kind of the middle of the screen. That will be complete in a little bit less than a year. Obviously, Market Basket, the retail building in between those two. And then I think as at least some board members recall, we have past approvals for one of the 2 mixed-use buildings on either side of Market Street up there, the one in kind of a whitish color. We need to come back for a reapproval in the future. So that's the plan for that side of Market Street. And we've always been planning a prominent mixed-use building on the opposite side. So that's really the kind of the heart and soul of Town Center. This site's, coming into it, and you can see in the foreground this building and the screening provided and how it fits the context. I also included in your package a landscaping plan that shows in plan view, how we're handling landscape on site. Like I said, we'll do all of the site work and landscaping with the phase 1 building, except for kind of the pad area for that second building. So that'll be left in probably a similar condition to what you see out by Allagash for 14 Market. And/or during construction, we'll have an end user, and that'll kind of catch up from a construction standpoint. And given the size of this bank being essentially half the size of the one you reviewed earlier, there's less queuing because there's going to be less kind of customer demand for the drive-through. Drive-throughs aren't what they used to be, so they don't see the volume that they used to see back 10 or so years ago. So we can do this in a subtler way with less impervious area, with less kind of visual prominence. So there's going to be one basically drive-through service area. So we've provided for 4 vehicles queued, which is more than the 3 that we did research on for a bank that's twice the size of the one proposed here. And so in working with our team as well as the bank folks, Mike's team, they seem that's more than adequate for their expected demand for this size institution. And I think those are the high points. If you have more detailed questions on, the civil side of things, Trevor's here as well to answer any questions. So with that, I'll turn it back to the board.
Thanks, Dan. This item is available for public comment. Anyone wishing, please step up.
No one online.
No one online. I will close public comment and turn this over in no particular order to my colleagues. Anybody want to start?
Oh, I will. I know you said if we had civil questions, Dan, but I have a traffic question. And I noticed that in the very helpful scorecard, oh, and hold on, let me just make sure this is the right scorecard for the right project. Be it this one or the one prior, that we are, the trips. Okay, 72, yep, great. Are shown as over permitted for Saturday peak. I'm still under for the other weekdays. And so we haven't really talked about it maybe in a while, but I understand from at least prior mentions that there is very likely another traffic movement permit in the works, for which a negative 62 is that's probably the answer to my question here, but I'm just curious what that means for this site. Can or should we approve a site that's knowingly exceeding a traffic movement permit that we already have in place? Staff.
We let them, our policy is we let them go over up to 99 without the next, that's DOT. So that's what we've been operating under. But we are underway with the traffic movement permit review as well.
And I guess I would suggest maybe we hear from Trevor, because like you said, I think that's a state standard. So you as the planning board can look at it however you want to look at it.
Do we have a rough, I know that getting the first traffic movement permit in place was no small feat, to put it mildly. I would imagine the second one, maybe a slightly lighter lift, but still probably a big lift. Are we looking way out? Are we likely to see this in place soon, somewhere in between?
Again, like I lived through the first one, we all did, which was kind of
Barely.
It is on a
We're still here.
sounds quicker trajectory,
Okay.
but quicker than 2 years.
Right, yeah,
Was the
that's-
first round. So I guess I'm looking kind of at the traffic engineers to say where they think they are at. Because at this point, you don't have a completed app or application, right, with the DOT.
I believe at this time,
So, yeah,
If-
sorry.
At this time, they're working with the DOT to complete the section 7 of the TMP. They met with the DOT, our traffic engineers met with the DOT last week, I believe, to further discuss the comments and hopefully reduce the back and forth that Angela mentioned from the first TMP. Additionally, as she said, the state DOT law is 99 trip ends, doesn't require a TMP. So a new site in theory that generates this trip wouldn't trigger a TMP until we hit that 99 limit. So in theory, we are not triggering the TMP until we exceed that 99 during any peak hour. Saturday.
But you have
just-
other sites that are also totally against that also. So you're already
Yeah.
in the negative.
Yeah.
Similarly with
As
the one that we did in.
the scorecard as a total right now is sitting, I believe, at negative 62 or so. So
It's just for Saturday
yeah,
where it's over. So there's quite a, there's 1,000+ trips left in the.
yeah. As a
peak.
whole scorecard up, it's any of those peak hours, AM, PM, or Saturday.
Right.
But as long as we don't trigger the 99 in any of those, then we're good. However, all of those, as Angela mentioned, we'll call them ongoing applications, have been counted in that scorecard. So we're not missing anything proposed to this point in that 62.
Sure.
So just clarify then, it's my understanding then you need to have the TMP in place in order to get a certificate of occupancy where you actually generate traffic.
Yeah,
If you're over 99.
if we're over 99. If you would trigger a TMP in a call it a normal site application, in this case, we obviously got TMP. We're sort of up against that until we hit that 99.
But in this case, you have a pending well, you don't yet, it's not complete,
It-
but in that scenario, you might be up against where you have a pending TMP. And you're requesting a CO. And you,
Until we get to negative 99, we in theory don't trigger the new TMP. So up until that point, the withholding of a CO wouldn't be a concern from the DOT's perspective of what triggers a TMP. Hopefully we get through that process prior to hitting that in the Saturday peak hour.
Like comment on. Just to go back to the first TMP, just so, because mitigation is what the concern is.
Right.
With the first TMP, the PM peak hour was what mitigation was based on because that had the most impact on the road system. So I think that's worth noting because the Saturday was not the benchmark for like all the level of mitigation required. So
I guess I would, do we still think that? I'm not sure we do anecdotally, like not even from a number, like a application or number standpoint, but just like being around on a Saturday versus driving to and from this or anywhere near this location AM and PM peak hour. So, just in quickly looking back up through this scorecard, there's a lot of these uses where actually it's the Saturday counts that are higher. The trip gens are higher. Not all of them, obviously, but several. Costco, for example, landside way more on Saturday, but a lot of the other sort of non office or non, some of the other uses. Anyway, so just being mindful of that, and like you said, which is a great point, Dan, really from a mitigation standpoint, like if this table's in the negative, okay, but really, what does that mean for us? It means that we're approving development intensity here before we're putting things in place elsewhere to handle it. And if you've ever waited in line at the grocery store or sat on, next to your neighbors at a concert or, something else, you have heard this is what people notice around is traffic is something that is very firsthand noticed by everybody. And so I want to make sure that we're keeping track of that. And I know that the other things are in motion, that the next permit is in the works, but that was just something that that jumped out at me. So I wanted to ask about that. The other question I have is about there's both in the material and on the plans, you talked about and perhaps even in the staff memo, I can't remember, multiple places referred to allocated spaces. And I think this was in an effort to try and clarify or say that we'll clarify later the difference between parking spaces allocated for this bank use, perhaps for the future retail use. And then also there was a note on the plans for some of the parking bays, sort of like plan north of this building to be reserved for future residential development. And I'm just wondering if you could give us a couple minutes on that and
Sure.
about whether or not are we really allocating these such that we should expect, like, are those going to be signed, reserved for residential, or is this more of a shared, can we assume this to be more of a shared parking situation that would benefit, for example, these sort of traditional day use commercial spaces with residential use that might be more intense overnight or off hours?
Yeah, so the intention is to build them now, number one,
Mhm.
because it's a lot easier to execute them in one shot versus, and
Sure.
also doesn't disrupt the businesses that are in first,
Mhm.
to build that parking later. The nature of the project next door, so to the east, requires more parking because it's going to be, you know, a 4 or 5 story building similar to the breakaway. And that's where we want, and the plan anticipates that kind of density of activity.
Mhm.
So the intention is to build those parking spaces to benefit that site. We think it's going to be primarily for residential use, like very similar to what we did on the breakaway. If you remember, there was kind of the commercial parking closest to the building, and there was nested residential parking, really to be reserved for the residents, so they had reliable parking.
So I
Um,
actually don't remember in a detailed sense. I remember that generally, but are they signed and like actually?
Those
don't
are,
Park here.
so at the
reserved
breakaway,
for
those
residents?
are, they are.
Okay. That's the intent to be here.
That's the likely intent. We just need to get, we're not at that stage to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of hours of parking.
Yep.
In the meantime, we think they can be kind of generally used. And then when that building and site is performed, it's likely to be dedicated for residential use. It could be only in evenings, or it could be entirely. We need to figure that out once we're before you, kind of with true parking numbers and a program. So, but the intention is those spaces benefit the site next door. I mean, at a high level, because this site is intentionally kind of lower intensity use, so that site can be higher intensity use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I will tell you why this caught my attention, and I'm not gonna name names because I'm a fan, but I'm not gonna call anybody out, but there is a use in town in a relatively newish building that we approved before the current tenant was there, and we did not look at parking specific to the use that's there, and it is incredibly intense and a problem, I think, for people accessing the site and probably for the business itself as well. And so I understand that this is sort of anchored in a much larger parking field, but the fact that we are looking at this building as one, which is including the bank use, but also sort of a more generic retail use. There is hierarchy, I think, even within retail use. And so I'm just curious about, like, having that additional parking field would be great if that was to be a more intense retail use. But if it is to be future, reserved in the future for residences only, one or more of these feels like it has the potential to be kind of crunched in terms of parking availability. So that was.
I think
I
that
just wanted
parking
to say
can
that.
be that sponge. So if we find that there's a restaurant or a retail use that's generating a lot of traffic on the site that you're talking about tonight,
Yeah.
then we can modify
Shift it around.
how
a little
that
bit,
parking
maybe.
is managed to free up capacity. So there's nothing cast in stone
Sure.
on that parking. It's
Yeah.
more about performing it now because it's the right time to perform it.
I think that makes sense, and I'm just, I think shared parking is great and how we should be treating a lot of these different infills, and I know that that's something that you guys are, you're working on and mindful of too, but I just wanted to flag that. More specifically related to the bank, is there a plan for this to have any kind of lobby area or walk-up ATM or any type of use facility like that?
They're still working on their interior floor plans, so I can't say definitively whether they might also have like a ATM in the vestibule, for example. I don't think so, but it's not decided. And if there's, I think there could be demand for it, so like we can work with Mike on looking at that if that's a board recommendation. Because they're still in that phase of finalizing interiors.
Sure, that makes sense. I will not go into my drive-through rant again because you all just heard that, but I think a walk-up ATM would be great to have here. And would go a long way to kind of help emphasize this use's place within this town center feel. And you would want to make sure that you weren't limiting your off-hour usage to anyone needing to get in a car to use the ATM, I think. So I think it would be beneficial to you, but I think just in the overall broad scheme of things, that would be a great addition. I didn't see anything on the plans that identified any kind of like outdoor space. I know we actually just looked at another one, and understanding the sites are very different, but this sort of the development, the building and its direct adjacent spaces here feel kind of tight. And I didn't notice any kind of bench or placemaking, employee lunch waiting for, you know, something like that type space. So I wondered if you had anything planned like that.
So the bank doesn't have anything planned, and the retail space right behind it is really kind of in line, you know, from a design standpoint, meaning there's not, there's sidewalk, but there's not a lot of open area. What we had been anticipating, kind of right where on this plan you see kind of the sidewalk intersection where the walkway ties into the Market Street sidewalk. We have a bike rack in that location and some landscape. You know, from a placemaking standpoint, I think that corner, you know, on the pad, I don't say the pad, the future building side of that walkway, I think would actually in our render, I'll show it to you,
That's what
shows that.
I didn't want to. Yeah, that's what made me think of it actually, because I saw.
You know, if you, this is contemplating, say if that's a restaurant, that's an awesome place for outdoor dining right along the sidewalk, even if it wasn't, you know, if it was a retail use. From our perspective, that's the right location to have some engagement with the street and a seating area. So,
So perhaps a shared outdoor common space is kind of what you're getting at, I think, coming with the next.
yeah, coming with the next building, similar to what we showed you earlier, you know, where second building's executing some shared space or seating area. We can add a note to the plan if that's helpful, like that would be kind of that corner would be something that the next building incorporates.
Okay, I think that would be great, just to make sure that we don't lose track of it. I know, you know, I'm sure this is no different than any of your other programming pieces, and they do seem to keep coming fast and furious, but in the off chance that something were to be delayed, I think that would be great to have a note like that. I think that's all that I have this time.
Thanks, Jen. Roger, you want to go?
Actually, I don't have anything to add. I'm glad that you went with the bypass lane instead of having two drive-throughs. But I think it looks fine right there. So I don't have anything else at this point.
All right. Thanks, Roger. Marvin?
Very briefly, and referring back, pardon me, to the last item, 602, the 14 Market site plan, and my comment there. Once again, my question is about the character-based design guidelines, and I have this second chance here. I did want to say that staff sent me the Town Center North and Haggis District's conceptual master plan, and I couldn't find it there either. So if someone could provide me with the character-based design guidelines, I'd be very grateful, and otherwise would suggest that we don't if they don't exist, that we don't list them as something that looks as though they exist. Thank you. Oh, I had a question. I don't know if this is appropriate. When you were just referring to the recommendation of adding an ATM, is that something we can require? That's a suggestion. I thought that was a very good idea.
Do you want to answer that, staff?
The planning board can add items to the motions. That particular one does seem a bit perhaps overstepping, as it's not in the applicant's submittal, but the idea of suggesting that, or the inclusion of the placemaking on the corner, that is perfectly appropriate to add in within your purview.
Thank you.
To,
That's it for me. Pardon.
to be clear, I would be fine offering that as a suggestion and not a requirement.
Right.
No.
Thanks. Mike wrote it down mentally.
But it's a good suggestion. You all set then? Very good. I think my comments are pretty germane to what my comments were on the last one, given the fact that I do see natural gas being there. You know, I want to remind our good friends at the bank that Scarborough does have a comprehensive plan, and what we try to do, and one of the stresses there is how to mitigate the effects of climate change. And anytime we're emitting greenhouse gases is converse to what our drive is and what our goals are. And I would strongly urge you to consider ways in which this building and and to the Downs, the adjacent building, when it comes before us, to have those considerations. I do like looking at that top view on your other slide where I saw some of the larger buildings that took the time to show some solar. I haven't seen a whole lot, but being a bank and that square footage, that roof line looks like you could really benefit from on-site generation and use what you're generating to the best. And I'm sure your bank patrons would enjoy knowing that you're doing your civic duty in mitigating the effects of climate change. I'll add that as my comment. Other than that, I don't have anything. I learned some things about the DEP, or not the DEP, but the traffic and how the 99 plays in. So Jen, as always, it's nice to have your expertise. And I did see that minus 62 on the scorecard, but I had no idea what that really meant for us. But I do now, so I appreciate
It's
that.
probably just the nerd in me that's like, wait,
No,
negative.
it's okay. With that, I do have a motion for this project. I move to approve the project titled 72 Market Street, Lot 2, proposed by MRW Town Center Development LLC. The project is depicted in plan sets prepared by LJB dated 6/22/26. The application is approved with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the project will include construction of 2 single-story commercial buildings with associated parking, landscaping, pedestrian connections, and shared access drives. The first building will contain 4,000 square feet of commercial space, including a 2,000 square foot bank branch with drive-through facilities and a separate 2,000 square foot retail tenant space. The second building is proposed to be approximately 2,500 square feet to 3,000 square feet. The project will be submitted to the planning board as an amended site plan when a tenant for the second building has been determined. The planning board finds the project meets the requirements of the site plan review and zoning ordinances with the following conditions. Condition 1, prior to the submittal of a building permit, the applicant shall A, address the staff comments in memo dated 7/20/26, B, address traffic comments in memo dated 7/6/26, C, address engineering comments in memo dated 7/6/26, provide final approvals from Portland Water District and Scarborough Sanitary District. E, address the planning board comments discussed at the 7/20/26 meeting. This includes consider inclusion of a walk-up ATM in final bank design. 2, designate shared common space along corner landscaping of second building, the use of which is to be determined. Provide the final full plan set to the planning department. This shall include all site and civil plans, landscape plans, lighting plans, and architectural renderings and elevations. G, execute a record and record a stormwater maintenance agreement with the town. The form of the stormwater maintenance agreement is located in Appendix 1 of the Town of Scarborough's Chapter 419 Post-Construction Stormwater Infrastructure Management Ordinance. H, pay the Chapter 19 Stormwater Maintenance Agreement and reporting fee totaled $750. I, submit payment of all review fees and invoices. J, pay roadway impact fees total $9,568. That comes from Dunstan Corner at $5,608 and Haggis Parkway at $3,960. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall reach out to the planning department at planning@scarboroughmaine.org to schedule a pre-construction meeting for 3 weeks from the submittal date. The meeting shall include appropriate town staff, the developer, and their site contractor. 3, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall A, submit evidence in the form of a letter or plan prepared and stamped by a professional engineer who either prepared the post-construction stormwater management plan and its associated facilities or supervised the plan and facilities construction and implementation. The letter or plan shall certify that the stormwater management facilities have been installed in accordance with the approved post-construction stormwater management plan, and they will function as intended by said plan. B, reach out to the planning department 2 weeks prior to CO inspection at planning@scarboroughmaine.org to schedule a final site inspection and establish a performance guarantee for any missing items. And 4, prior to the issuance of a sign permit, the applicant shall provide a final signage plan. This shall be reviewed by the planning department. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Roger. Doreen, would you take the roll?
Rick Monking,
Yes.
Marvin Gates,
Yes.
Roger Bailey,
Yes.
and Jennifer Ladd.
Yes.
Welcome to
Thank you very
Scarborough.
much.
And we'll look forward to seeing that other building once you get a tenant or
Good.
an owner. Thank you very much. That concludes our action items for tonight. Moving to staff reports, any minor development reviews?
We had one minor development review at Scarborough Family Dentistry at 253 US Route 1. This involved just some updates to their parking and landscaping essentially, and I'm happy to share more details of the plan if anyone's interested. They also added a path from their ADA access aisle to the main entrance, so just a few updates at that site. Other than that, no other approvals.
Thank you. Any administrative amendment report?
None at this time.
Very good. Then any correspondence?
None at this time.
Planning board comments? There's 4 of us here.
I have 2.
All right, Jen, fire away.
I would like to, at a later date, have a conversation about drive-throughs in non-restaurant drive-throughs. We can talk more later, but, like I said before, I think that to allow this type of activity in a zone that we have also spent so much time and effort on being very intentional about its walkability, human scale, that to provide, and like I said, trip generation, I don't care how many people go through the drive-through, but as soon as you put in that type of facility, you're inherently encouraging people to drive there. And all of our other ordinance work is kind of saying something different. And so I don't want that to be interpreted as me being, or the board, or anybody being anti-drive-through, or anti-bank or anything like that. It's a matter of right sizing it and making sure that we're encouraging it in the right places where we want that kind of activity and not allowing it in areas that we don't. So that is all I have to say about that. And I'm wondering if someone either at this meeting or a future meeting could remind me about the procedural difference between, I don't know, I'm looking at you, maybe somebody, between consent item and a full agenda item, because I feel like we go through a lot of the same steps for a consent item that we do for a full agenda item. No one tends to take us up on it because we tend to have already seen them really frequently, but I thought there were fewer steps.
The idea was that if it's a consent agenda item, you all didn't have to open it up for discussion. You could just
Okay.
make a motion and move on. It
Okay.
has gotten to a point where you all would have approved it at a prior meeting, except for some
Sort of like
sort of.
procedurally, like, oh, you have your
Exactly.
permits
They
now.
To approve it because the DEP permit was not
Yeah.
permitted, so you can put it on consent and not discuss it and bring it up.
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Jen. Anybody else? Great. Well, we're out of here before 8:30. Do I have anybody want to entertain a motion to adjourn? Roger, you will.
So, are you making a motion?
No, you can.
I'll make a motion.
All
to
right, let's do
adjourn.
it. Thank you all. Thank you, Helen.